Yeah, I got 9:15. Well, good morning. Thank you for being here on time. So I'll respect your time. And I have failed to pray every morning. So let's let's pray real quick before we get started. Heavenly Father, we just ask you to help us understand, to realize the big picture. Jesus, I thank you that your arrival on the scene was the kickoff to Eden restoration. And as we look at these beasts and creatures, we're reminded that one day we'll get along with all of them. And that's exciting. I don't know exactly how that'll look, but we thank you for that. And thank you for everybody here, and open up our hearts and minds to what you would want us to learn so that we can draw closer to you. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, good morning. So, review. What was one thing you thought about this week from the previous classes? Anybody?
I'm very confused.
Tom says he's very confused.
Which is nothing new.
Which is nothing new.
It's a perpetual state of mind.
Good morning. Come on in.
That there actually may have been unicorns.
There may have actually been unicorns.
Hey, Brad.
Sandy had a great question last week. She said, is there any, I would have to say, I'm the thing that I've been most surprised about this class is your engagement with the artwork. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And so Sandy had a question about, were there mythical beasts in representations of Noah's Ark? And yeah, there are. Can you see them?
Also,
Yeah.
Very argumentative last week.
Who was argumentative last week? Sandy? Yeah, no way. So I don't know. I'm not sure if those are dragons or griffins, but they're definitely mythical. This is like a precursor to Where's Waldo? It's like, yeah, of course. Check out. Hey, don't look what the lion is doing. Like as soon as they get off the ark, boom, he's killing the horse. He's gonna eat it. That's he's doing it. He's eating. This is crazy, right? I don't see it. There, look,
one of two.
there is a unicorn. No, and you know what's funny too is I think this is supposed to be Noah and somebody, and they're like pointing to this like little dog figure, and it's almost like they're like, where's his pair? Where like there's only one. Like where did he go?
The dog ate him already.
Yeah, the lion already had a meal. Yeah.
You could look at this for
I know, you could look at this artwork forever. I mean, it's just.
Can you send us that one?
Yeah, well, it'll be in the it'll be in the PowerPoint for this coming week for your enjoyment. Is there? Yeah.
Some of the other things is just even like I laugh with dinosaurs that they come up with color coding and there's no skin ever that's been reported on a dinosaur that was completely fully skinned. So your artist rendition of specific colors and beaks and length of tails, when a lot of these artists admit that you've never seen.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Joanne.
they begin to copy each other.
Yeah. So Joanne's saying, I'm just saying it for the video, that they've never seen these animals, so their feet are not exactly right, or their tails are a little strange, or they're a little too furry. Yeah, they've heard reports about it. Yeah, they copy one another. We've seen that with the bestiaries. We'll see that with the satyr. In fact, I have a slide of 3 satyrs. It's clear they're copying one another. They look almost identical, but they're in 3 different bestiaries.
Do you think that's an accurate representation of the ark?
Gigi's asking, is this an accurate representation of the ark? I don't know. Has anybody been to the Ark Experience? Where's that? In Tennessee or Kentucky? Is that what it looks like?
That's way too small.
Way too small. Okay. Probably way too small.
Yeah, I think the Ark Experience makes it triple that.
Okay. So Ark Experience makes it 3-4 times. Good morning.
Part of the ark at Mount Ararat, isn't it in Turkey?
Have they found parts of the ark on Mount Ararat? I'm not 100% sure about this, but I don't think they know exactly which mountain is Ararat. And one commentator I read said, if you this is in reference to Jesus's cross. If you piled up all the authentic pieces of the cross, you could make a Noah's Ark. I mean, come on, wood doesn't last that long. Yeah, unless it got petrified. We looked at this piece of artwork last week when we talked about Mark chapter 1, verse 13. It has this tiny little phrase there, right, where he said, he was with the wild beasts. It's so easy to miss. But in light of Psalm 91 that we looked at last week, and when we look at Isaiah 13 and 34 this week, this stands out. And I was looking at this piece of artwork a little more carefully after class, and it was so odd to me that his foot is so obvious. And then I realized that it looks, I don't know if you can see it because it's really hidden in there, but what does it look like that's there? A snake. And so he's got his heel right next to the snake. And then I saw this little crazy creature too. I don't know what that's supposed to be. But that, it's clear that this artist or whoever commissioned it, they knew the Bible, right? They knew Genesis 3. So I thought that was cool. I just went back to it. Here's a couple other pieces of artwork that show mythical. Yeah, and look the artist. I mean, you could tell he really highlighted the unicorns here. I don't know if there's anything else. I like how God's peeking out over the cloud, though.
So that's 1500. When did unicorns come out of the scene?
When did unicorns come on the scene? I mean, they're super old. I mean, they're part of Greek mythology.
Yeah, they're all mythical. I mean, how much acid would you drop to come up with that?
Well, again, remember, like they thought they were real. It's not. They didn't live where they lived. They lived in Ethiopia and India, but they were there.
They'd never seen them.
No, they had never seen them. No, but who travels? And there's no photography, so yeah, sure, they exist. Here's one more. Here's a big tapestry. This was one of a series of tapestries of biblical scenes made for Sigismund Augustus II, King of Poland. And then when he died, he divvied them out to his sisters, so they're not all together anymore. It's hard to see the mythical creatures, so I have a couple details. Full of dragons. I think that's a unicorn. I couldn't really find a better picture of this artwork. Not as far as I know, not a really well-known piece of artwork. Oh, and here's one more with plaque with God creating the animals. So 1084. I mean, this is old, but check it out. Somebody knew Psalm 91. I mean, this isn't even Psalm 91. They're not trying to represent that, but remember Psalm 91, it had those four beasts. It's the lion, the serpent. That sure looks like a cockatrice to me. And then I think that looks like a little griffin. It's probably supposed to be a dragon, though, because in Psalm 91, a lot of times they translated it as dragon. But they put those four together.
And then what's the one at the top?
These at the top?
No, to the left of the so-called rooster.
Yeah, I mean, he's got horns, maybe a cow. That kind of looks like a horse. But you can see how, these people were biblically educated. I mean, this is creation of the animals from Genesis 1, but you can see a clear allusion to Psalm 91 there. I did mention Fantasia 2000 last week. And so I found a frame from it. And I said there was a unicorn, but so the second animal, I thought there was only two animals. There was a unicorn, a dragon, and then there's this guy. I think that's supposed to be a griffin. I don't know. What do you guys?
That green thing in the middle?
Oh, that's the dragon.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's pretty amazing. Like again, somebody who created somebody knew the Bible in Fantasia 2000 because they put the unicorn and the dragon, and although they never actually translated griffin, oftentimes they make these creatures look like griffins. In fact, we'll see, probably not today, but well, no, we definitely won't have time today. In the cherubim, this was so interesting. I was doing some research this week, and often on these tiny little seals that they found all over Palestine, they're like little button size, but they're like seals that you would stamp into the wax so that you would know who it's from. And often there's a griffin on them. It looks like a griffin anyway, but most scholars believe it's supposed to be representing the cherubim, which is really weird because cherubim are described in the Bible and they're not really described like a griffin. Anyway, we'll get there later.
That bottom thing where the whatever is leaning over kind of looks like
Oh, this one.
a
Yeah.
compartment.
Well,
it's the bottom of the dragon, but it looks like
oh, here?
no, just up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
I think he's laying on his back.
Yeah.
It almost
Yeah.
looks like he's laughing.
Yeah. Yeah, they are, because everybody's getting into the ark at this moment. And they're like, ha. Yeah.
Andrew, have you seen the Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Disney movie?
Yes, I've seen the Hunchback.
There's a lot of that.
Oh, the Hunchback of Notre Dame also has a lot of. Oh, okay. I've seen it, but yeah. Huh. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, somebody from Disney. I mean, they know. I mean, why would they pick these specific animals? Oh, somebody was asking about bestiaries last week. And I was talking about how the weasel is the counterbalance to the basilisk / cockatrice. The weasel, man, this thing is a unique creature in bestiaries. I'm going to read from my notes. Weasels were said to conceive through their mouth and give birth through their ears. So that's what they're doing there. And then the seeds coming out of the ear. Or some bestiaries have it vice versa. This is how much they allegorize this, though. This was a model of how the Virgin Mary could stay a virgin. Now, one of the old-time bestiaries, it's like a precursor to a bestiary. It's not really a bestiary. It denies this. It says, no, that's not how weasels procreate. But it didn't prevent the bestiaries from reporting it. I guess it was just too salacious. They had to do it. Weasels were also said to have healing powers, but they were also a symbol of greed, probably because of their desired fur. And as I looked into it, because some people are asking about symbols of bestiary animals, for the most part, the animals are a mixed bag when it comes to symbolism. They not entirely positive and not entirely negative. There are a few that are, but most of them are kind of good, kind of bad. The satyr, we're going to get to him in just a second. He's bad. He's all bad.
So I think that's Latin.
Yeah, they're all in Latin. Yep.
Could you translate it?
Could I translate it? No.
Well, maybe not you, but
Oh, well, yeah, you could copy it and put it in Google Translate. I do it all the time.
Dominus is Lord.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 years.
And it's so, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with this scene here. King David, probably. This is what? Let's see which bestiary this is. Oh, it's from the Queen Mary Psalter, so it's from the Psalms. So it might be King David. Okay, well, time to move on. Satyrs, Sirens, Centaurs, Lilith, and Dragons. We'll probably just have time for these first three. We'll see how far we get. Isaiah 13 and 34. You guys ready? This. Okay. Primarily, we're looking at Isaiah 13, 21 through 22. The context is judgment on Babylon. And 21 and 22 is the very end of Isaiah 13. So I've got we're going to go We're going to start with the most recent and go back in time. ESV. Wild animals will lie down there, talking about Babylon. And their houses will be full of howling creatures. Their ostriches will dwell, and their wild goats will dance. Hyenas will cry in its towers, jackals in the pleasant palaces. Its time is close at hand, and its day will not be prolonged. Okay, we get to KJV. Wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures.
Sad.
Yeah, doleful, mournful. And owls shall dwell there. Okay, so you can already see it's different. Satyrs shall dance there, and the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. Keep going. Okay, remember, this is Latin to English. Wild beasts shall rest there, and their houses shall be filled with serpents. Okay, and we get back to ostriches. Ostriches shall dwell there, and the hairy ones shall dance there. Owls shall answer one another there, in the houses thereof, and sirens in the temples of pleasure. And then remember, this is Septuagint. Wild animals will rest there, and their houses will be filled with noise. Their sirens will rest, and their demons will dance. Donkey centaurs will dwell there, and hedgehogs will build nests in their houses. Right, totally. I can see something going, yeah, right? It's very different.
Now, when these guys are writing different versions of the Bible, I mean, where do they get this from? Because it's this, none of that's in what I'm.
Okay, so
American Standard.
Okay, so Tom is saying none of that is in his New American Standard. What's your New American Standard say?
Desert creatures will lie down there, and their houses will be full of owls.
Owls, okay.
Ostriches. Also will live in shaggy goats.
Shaggy goats.
Hairy ones.
The hairy ones is the shaggy goats. Yeah.
Then it goes on to hyenas.
Hyenas. Okay. Jackals. Okay. Yeah, that's a. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about why these are so different. Anybody got anything totally different?
For me, it's just fun to see how they refer to the temples. Some are pleasurable, some are luxurious.
Okay.
It's just funny how even the temples have been changed.
Yeah. The temples of pleasure. I mean, like that. A place of luxury, right? So first of all, right away, you could know these verses have to be difficult to translate. It's clear that they don't know what some of these words mean. And even today, they're not 100% sure which animals are which. The King James Version, when they published it, they have this big, yeah, and you can find it online, it's free. They have this big long note to the readers. And it's so funny to read it because you can tell they're trying to dance around going, well, you know, we put little marginal notes in some places because to tell you the truth, we're just not really sure what some of these things are. In fact, we don't even think the Hebrews knew what they were. Yeah, I think they're up on the roof. Okay, so that's Isaiah 13. Yes.
So there's really nothing in Babylon today. I mean, this prophecy came true.
Yeah, it's desolate. Yeah, sure, it's desolate today. Sure.
Yeah. Where is Babylon?
Iraq. Yeah. Okay, so now we go to Isaiah 34, second half of 13, verse 13 and verse 14. So now, okay, context is very similar, but now it's judgment against Edom. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. I'm using the exact same translations. ESV, it shall be the haunt of jackals. Oh, I didn't highlight that one, but jackals, that's an important one. An abode for ostriches, and wild animals shall meet with hyenas. The wild goat shall cry to his fellow. Indeed, there the night bird settles there and finds for herself a resting place. So, I mean, one thing you should notice right away is like you can see these are all actual, like what we would say are actual animals, right? Almost all English versions are going to do that. Partly, it's not because they know what these animals are. It's just because they want to, probably first and foremost, they want to be able to sell the Bible. And, you know, if they put sirens and dragons in there, people are going to go, I'm going to read that. But, we know there's no such thing as dragons.
So the night birds are owls.
No. We're going to see what the night bird is in the next slide. Okay, we'll see what it is in just a second. Very important word though. King James, it shall be a habitation of dragons. We got owls. The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with his wild beasts of the island. The satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl. So instead of night bird, screech owl shall rest there. Okay, DRA. It shall be the habitation of dragons and the pasture of ostriches, and demons and monsters shall meet. And the hairy ones shall cry out to one another. We got hairy ones again. There hath the Lamia lay down and found rest for herself. Septuagint, totally different. It shall be a habitation of sirens and a courtyard of ostriches. Demons shall meet with donkey centaurs and call to one another. Their donkey centaurs shall repose, for they have found for themselves a place to rest. I did add the NRSV here because wildcats shall meet with hyenas. Goat demons shall call to each other. There too Lilith shall repose and find a place to rest. It's one of the few English translations, actually one of the few translations that just decides to transliterate that word Lilith, because that's what it is in Hebrew. It's just Lilith. But we're going to see that's this is really important for Jews and Christianity later. Anybody ever heard of Lilith?
The Messianic Bible says that too. It says Lilith.
Okay.
Monster will lurk
So
there.
your Messianic Bible says Lilith. Okay. Anybody else?
But it doesn't have an H at the end. It's just Lilith.
Lilith. Okay. Yeah. That's a really tight.
It says the night monster.
That's a really well, she is a night monster. That's a really tight translation of it. Yeah.
In the very first episode of The Chosen, season 1, first episode, Mary Magdalene is in that cage-like thing, but they refer to her as Lilith.
Oh, okay. So
Isn't
in
that
the,
right?
you know what's also interesting too is that if you've ever read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, C.S. Lewis puts Lilith in there. It's in there. Yeah.
Is there some myth that
Oh yes, we're gonna get to it. Oh yes, there's a myth.
I'm looking at Lamia?
Lamia, it's like another form of Lilith.
Oh, okay.
We'll get there. We won't have time for Lilith today, but we're gonna get there. I think what's also important about, well, let me show the next slide here, just so that we don't get too lost into the details. The ambiguity of the creatures, I believe it's designed. The author wants the reader to see natural and spiritual components as a part of the desolation and waste. Remember the context of both those passages. Edom, Babylon, they're completely destroyed. The Septuagint translators were not trying for a one-to-one equivalent translation, not at all. Instead, the list of animals conveys the Hebrew symbolism. The theological message is that these nations have devolved into a state of chaos due to their disobedience. I mean, think about it, right? It's anti-Eden. You've got animals, wild animals, and evil things populating this place. There's no humans. There's no humans to exert the dominion that we're supposed to do. So God's just going to let animals go wild. Does that make sense?
Very dark. I'm thinking like there's a really dark.
Very dark, yes, very dark spiritual state as well. Yeah.
And owls wouldn't really be out if there's daytime.
No, right,
That leads
right,
to
yeah, good.
chaos, I think, like they're confused probably even.
Yeah, so there's, yeah, like the creatures like night creature, owls, we know they come out at night. The one researcher, one scholar I read said, the Septuagint translators, the decision to bring mythology into the Bible was a strategy to enhance understanding for their audience. They're using creatures that their audience would already be familiar with. But artist imaginations, they took off with these things. So let's get to the Satyr first. All right, let's talk about the Satyr. So you can see how they translate this thing all totally different. The Hebrew is Seir or Seirim in plural. That is found in Isaiah 13:21. The Septuagint translates it just straight up demons. The Vulgate translates it as hairy ones. It's actually, if you look in the Hebrew, it's actually the same word twice in a row. It says Seir, Seir, which is a way for Hebrews to, it's that their language is saying very, very. They just don't have that word. So if they want to make something emphasize it, they'll just put the same word twice in a row. So that's why it's often hairy one or like a shaggy one. So it's like a really shaggy goat. King James does satyrs. Martin Luther, he translated as Feldgeister, which means field spirits. But then in his comments, he says, well, what I really mean is a satyr. I'm like, why don't you just put that in there, Martin? NIV, wild goats. That's so weird because they justify this by saying new light. We use new light, new evidence to translate it wild goat, but they don't bother to tell you what that new evidence is. Like, well, I guess I'll take your word for it. Now, of course, satyrs had a rich tradition in Hellenism already. This is a Greek vase, crater, it's called. All of these Greek vases, they all have different functions, so they have different names. 550 BC. So this would be before the Septuagint is translating the Hebrew to the Greek. You can see the little satyr there guy. You know what's strange? I'll get to your question in just a minute. Really, to say it's a satyr is actually a pretty accurate translation. It really does mean like a goat-human hybrid.
So there really was such a thing?
There really was such a thing as satyr?
As a goat human? Where did they get that
from? According to the Hebrew and the Greek. I'm not saying they were real, but they thought. I think they thought they were real. I mentioned the bestiary. I've mentioned bestiaries many times, but I wanted to show you a whole page of a bestiary just to get you an idea of the size, because I keep putting them like really big, and they're not big. These images are really small. This is a page from the Aberdeen bestiary. I'm so thankful. Some of these people, they have really spent a lot of time to digitize these bestiaries, and a lot of them, they're really, the whole thing is digitized. You can like zoom in so deeply. You may be wondering about this. According to the website, at some point, somebody cut out that picture. And if you flip through it, somebody cut out several pictures of this bestiary anyway. They didn't say why or when it was done. They probably don't know. But that's what that gray area is. Old, 1200, right? Well, here's a zoom in of the little satyr. Here's what the text said next to the bestiary. The satyr, like the ape, has some similarities with man. He's partly like a goat with a beard, horns, and a broad tail. That's pretty close. His rather human body is covered with shaggy hair. He holds his thyrus or wand, used in his lustful and disorderly revels. His face is quite attractive, and he makes pantomime gestures. Yeah, I know. So, often it's very, again, really strange with these bestiaries. Often the description and the illustration don't match. It's not that they don't completely match. If it's talking about a satyr, they'll have an illustration of a satyr, but sometimes they're just not even close. So it's pretty obvious that the illustrators and the authors, writers, were not communicating with one another. Any questions? Good. Yeah.
Question, some of these pictures look like something that the pagans would worship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. And
like idols or something.
yeah, we're going to get to, and you'll see why, because I have a slide in here where idol worship is connected with goats, demons, and that's how they translate it. Here's what I was referring to earlier. This is 3 different bestiaries you can see they're clearly copying one another.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah, it even has the circle, which is kind of an unusual border.
Legs crossed.
Legs are crossed, they're holding the wand. I mean, these are obviously copying one another. Here's another old vase, 440, 430 BC. There he is.
They like crossing their legs, don't they?
Yeah, that's true. He's crossing his legs, and they were crossing. Yeah, I wonder what. I didn't read anything about that, but that would be interesting. You're right. They are crossing their legs a lot. Let me see this next one. Well, this is a little sculpture. Now you might be wondering, as you've seen these pictures of satyrs, are representations of the devil. Does this have anything to do with the devil getting hooves and horns? For sure. Now, the imagery of the devil was a visual and textual gradual progression, very gradual, with many twists and turns. You see, 2nd century BCE, so this is right before or contemporary with the Septuagint translators. Depends on exactly when you would say they're translating. Okay, so, and I think this will answer your question. Satyrs and the demonic in the Bible and later Jewish literature. So remember that seer word is what they're translating, goat, satyr. The Septuagint translated, we saw a demon in Isaiah 13 and 34, probably due to the Aramaic translation of the Hebrew word. Okay, this is important because the Septuagint translators will do this quite often. They're not sure what a Hebrew word is. They go, well, I don't know what this word is. So they go, you know what? Let's look at how the Aramaic translated it, because Aramaic and Hebrew are similar. And so sometimes that'll give them a clue to how to translate it. Now, unfortunately, we have no idea what Aramaic, what they were looking at. Who knows? We don't even know what Hebrew word they were looking at. I don't know, but it's clear because they do this a lot that they're going back to it's almost like the Aramaic is, maybe think about it this way, it's like a link for them. They can't figure out the Hebrew to get to Greek, so they go to the Aramaic. And they go, oh, maybe that'll give us a little clue on how to translate this. And in this case, later Jewish writings consistently translated Hebrew and Aramaic sayers as demons. So the Septuagint goes, oh, Aramaic's translating this word as demon. We'll go with demon. Which the context, of both Isaiah 13 and 34, that, I think it's called for. All the way through the 7th century, they're consistently translating that word as demon. The Vulgate and many English versions translate the word as demons. Leviticus 17:7, 2 Chronicles 11, you could check those out. That is in the context of idolatry, of worshiping idols. And so they translate the word as demons, although you could just translate it as goats, satyrs again. And the King James, it goes straight up for devils. It just says, oh yeah, Leviticus 17, 2 Chronicles 11, it's the devil. They're worshiping the devil. So you're probably already connecting, so like goat demons, devils. The textual evidence is getting it all mixed up. And the visual evidence does too. So this is another bestiary, of course. The Harley bestiary in the British Library. British Library's got a whole bunch of them. I think this one's interesting. I mean, these clearly look like what we picture as devils. But I think this one's so interesting with the shield and the axe. I can't help but to think maybe, of course, Martin Luther hasn't done his translation at this point, but remember he translated as field spirit. So I'm just wondering if there's a connection between, because it kind of looks like he's going to go out into the field or something, right, with an axe? I don't know.
Where are the other guys looking back at?
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah, he looks worried. I have no idea why he's holding a snake. I could not. I tried to look that up, but I don't know why he's doing that. Yeah, Joanne.
What's the distinction feature of between extremely human, and the other ones, the earlier ones, were extremely human feet.
Okay. So the other ones,
Very human.
okay, so these guys have very human feet. Yeah, they look a lot more human.
Even the one right before this.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Very human.
Yeah, good observation. Right. These look more human. And then,
That woman in the middle holding, yeah, her. Some sort of plant
Him?
is she holding?
that's a male.
Oh, well, okay.
It's, well, the title is Dionysius with satyr and Maenech. So this is Dionysius.
Looks like he has a basket, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wine. Dionysius is the god of like revelry, and so Dionysius and satyrs and these Maenads, nymphs, they're connected with Dionysius all the time because it's like this whole big party. They're going to drink a lot. Yeah, I forget what he's holding. I don't know if I have it. I don't have it in my notes. Some kind of branch, though.
Yeah.
But good observation about the legs. Yeah, because these guys have clearly hooved. Satyrs remain pretty popular in art. This is Peter Paul Rubens. You can go to if you go to the Ringling in Sarasota, right when you walk in, they've got these huge Peter Paul Rubens paintings. I mean, just ginormous. I think it's Abraham meeting Melchizedek is one of them. He did a lot of biblical scenes. So, a very devout Catholic, Rubens was. Again, I didn't really look this up. I didn't have time to. This would be an interesting avenue of research, but I just wonder if Rubens, who is very devout Catholic, his faith was really important to him, and he was super famous during this time. He even became a diplomat. He had to have had access to Bibles. And apparently he was some kind of polyglot too, where he could read a lot of different languages. So I'm curious if he knew about the satyrs in the Bible. He may very well have. I don't know if you could ever prove that. Be interesting to look it up. 1873. Nymphs and satyrs will often be put together. They're trying to get him into the water because they want to drown him because they can't swim. Okay, so satyrs. You guys go satyrs? Yeah? Okay, great. We can move on to Centaurs and Sirens. They're paired together. You'll see why. So going back to Isaiah 13, 21 and 22.
And
This is.
Are you going to get to Caesarea Philippi?
Caesarea Philippi. Why should I get to that?
And Pan.
Pan and Bacchus. What do you want to say about that?
It's just that's where Jesus asked the disciples, "Who do you say that I am? Who do people say that I am? Who do you say that I am?" And there was a grotto where water would flow in, and where they worshipped Pan, the goat god, even in Jesus' day. And they believed if you offered your sacrifice and the blood went into the grotto, then Pan accepted your sacrifice and whatever your prayer was would be honored. And if the blood didn't flow in, it was rejected by the god. And so that's where Jesus was when he said, "Who do people say that I am?"
Okay.
Was in a center for the worship of Pan, who is the goat god.
No, I didn't know that. Yeah, I read one researcher who said that he couldn't really figure out. He said that he couldn't see any more connection with Pan, with satyrs, and gods than any other god. But I can hardly believe that. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because Pan is the only hybrid god in the Greek pantheon. He's the only one. So there had to be some overlap with Pan and these satyrs in the Bible that are clearly more than just natural animals. But I didn't know that about Caesarea Philippi.
Bacchus, like the god of pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dionysus, Pan, Banyas is what they still call that area today.
Oh, okay. They still call that Banyas.
So Jesus is saying,
Banias, but it's deriving from the Greek.
Okay.
Panias, banias, yeah.
Right, right.
So Jesus is asking, am I one of these?
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
when he
Am I
says,
just one of many
Or,
that you'll come to and hope I answer your prayer? And, yeah,
so when Jesus says, who do you say that I am I just one of these
yes.
gods in a
One of-
pantheon, or am I the God?
the one,
Capital G.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that context is really important then.
Yeah.
Good, thanks for bringing that up. Okay, Centaurs, Sirens, just don't worry, we're gonna learn what Centaurs are. The nets, this is the Septuagint one, and this is really the key one that connects Sirens and donkey centaurs together. Because you can see they don't do Sirens or donkey centaurs. Sirens will rest there, demons will dance, donkey centaurs. We go to 34, Sirens, donkey centaurs. See how the Septuagint does that? It compares them together. The Vulgate, I just put it in here for you because it's strange because the DRA, which is supposed to be a translation from Latin to English, it does not follow the Vulgate tightly here. Because you could see, I mean, we don't have to be able to read Latin to know what these words are. That's dragon. Centaurs, duh. But look what they do. They translate Centaurs as monsters here. So I don't know why they made that move, but same thing with dragon too. They did put the dragon, yeah. So they keep dragon there, but then they don't do Centaur. Not be interesting to ask them about that. So the Septuagint is pairing Sirens and Centaurs together, and visuals are going to do that too. Just to give you some historical reference, it's not uncommon for a human / these are actually bull men, old 850 BCE, carrying a sun disk. So obviously these are some kind of, lowercase g god, as they're in front of God or king or something like that. Back to Greek, alekthios, which is an oil flask. You can see the centaur. Again, super old. Here's a bestiary. The term onocentaur is rare, very rare in ancient Greek. In all of Greek literature, it appears only once outside of Bibles and commentaries about Bibles. From what I can gather, it almost seems like the Septuagint translators made that word up. It just hardly ever appears. Now, there were centaurs, right? I mean, there was definitely centaurs. But so what's an onocentaur? It's a donkey centaur. So it's half man, half donkey, as opposed to half man, half horse, or half man, half bull.
So what is the O-N-O?
O-N-O is like the donkey part. And you can see it says it right. I mean, again, we don't have to be able to read Latin. Onocentauri. I could not, again, he's holding a snake. I cannot figure out why they're holding snakes. Okay, so the question then is, why is the Septuagint translating this donkey centaur? Because there's really no precedent for it. I mean, it's almost like they're making up a word. In fact, the Greek is so different from the Hebrew. It's hard to, one researcher I read said, even scholars can't really tell, especially in verse 34, Isaiah 34, they can't even really tell what words are being translated for what. Because it's so different. But, okay, I think the key might be this piece of artwork. It's the Nile mosaic at Praia Nest, which is, now it's called something different, something similar. Let me look at mine. Palestrina, Italy. It's like 20 miles from Rome. Okay, so right there, the arrow, and I have a detail, I'll show you in just a second. That's an onocentaur. Like, well, how do you know that's an onocentaur? Well, you'll see, because it says onocentaur right under him. But notice, okay, the thing to notice here is that the transition from really arid, dry, look like there's a snake there, and there's these little indigenous dark figures shooting bows and arrows at these animals. And then it transitions to a place full of water. There's Roman architecture. There's people now. I think they're like holding up cups, and they're like these two people are toasting one another. Here's a couple details here. See, I don't know if they're toasting one another, but clearly civilization, right? So there's this transition from anti-civilization to civilization in this piece of artwork.
Andrew, does it kind of start at the top?
Mm-hmm.
And like you're going down the side of a mountain?
Yeah, it's like, right, you can see the big rocky mountains, and it's like there's no civilization here at all. All these little animals are not all of them, but most of them are labeled.
And that's a mosaic.
It's a mosaic, yeah. In fact, here I have a detailed one. You can see the teeny tiny little pieces they used. The little pieces are called tesserae. The Ano centaur inhabits what has been identified as the arid badlands of what is now Sudan. So again, what was the context of Babylon and Edom? Destroyed. Wasted land. It seems pretty clear that to the Septuagint translators, they're going to stick an Ano centaur into Isaiah 13 and 34 because they want to communicate to their audience, this is a wasted place. That's where Ano centaurs live. Does that make sense? And we can see that with this piece of artwork, this Nile mosaic.
That's another thing you could look at. Hours.
Oh yeah, you could just keep staring at this piece of artwork.
Piece down there that looks like an
Igloo? There's an igloo. Oh, here?
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, but look, even notice, right? This looks more like a hut, but then we get to like clearly Roman architecture. Probably a temple. Yeah. Little crocodile there.
So the animals on the bottom are more like normal animals?
The animals at the bottom look like normal animals. They definitely look more like Egyptian animals. Remember, this is the Nile mosaic. I mean, right, you got a couple crocodiles. Definitely looks like some hippos there. But far less animals. I mean, here it's like all animals, no people, except for the little dark-figured indigenous people. So of course, the artist wouldn't put an Ano centaur down there, no way, because they don't. That's not where they live. They live in the desert, waste place.
That one looks different. It looks like a lion.
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, it's the same mosaic. What do you mean different?
I don't see like the top part of like from the waist up. You saw.
Oh yeah, because it definitely looks more like an animal here. But we know it's an Ano centaur because that's what it says underneath. So, well, thank you, artist, for labeling that. Otherwise, what's that? Oh, what's that next to him? I think, because that one's not labeled. Okay, so I think it's a tailless ape. The reason I say that is because when I was reading the translation from Septuagint to English, the guy who did it, Moises Silva, really well-known scholar, he has a note at Ano centaur, and he says, or tailless ape. And so there's some kind of precedent to connect a tailless ape and an Ano centaur with one another. I think it, again, probably going back to this idea of like a field spirit, like how Martin Luther translated it. That's my guess, that it's some kind of tailless ape.
Andrew, those 4 things on the far left, are those birds?
Yeah, the bird.
Birds.
Yeah. Centaurs remain pretty prevalent in artwork, specifically related to a story about Saint Anthony or Anthony asking the centaur the way. So this story, here's another piece of artwork. This story is actually told by Jerome, the guy who translated the Vulgate. And Antony is directed in a dream to find a man in the desert who turns out to be Saint Paulus the Hermit. So this is Anthony here, and he's told, okay, go find Paul. Paulus. He's in the desert somewhere, but of course he doesn't know where he is. So he runs across a centaur. This is according to Jerome. I'm not making this up. On the way through the desert, Anthony gets lost. He's visited by a centaur. Jerome says that's most likely a demon who points the way. Some traditions, it's strange because then other people pick up on the story and they insert a satyr for the centaur, but in artwork, it's almost always a centaur. In fact, I couldn't find a piece of artwork that was a satyr at all.
And in Catholic belief, Saint Anthony is the patron saint of lost. Yeah, lost. If you lose.
Okay, so Saint Anthony is the patron saint.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pray to Saint Anthony.
it's this story because it's from this story. Clearly, he's the patron saint of lost things, so it's from this story because he got lost. And maybe an Ano centaur will appear to you in a dream and tell you where it
Tell
is.
you where you're lost.
Also, what's also interesting about Jerome's legend here is that this is one of the first times somebody else, like I said, other people picked up on Jerome and they copied the story, and sometimes it was a satyr. It's one of the very first times that a satyr is physically described in literature, retelling this story. Though again, I couldn't find any artworks that had a satyr in it. They're all centaurs. There's clearly some ambiguity between satyrs and centaurs, especially in visuals and texts. We're good? Yeah? Okay, let's get to sirens. We got a little bit of time. Sirens. Because they're always paired, and you saw that with the Septuagint, right? Both passages, Isaiah 13 and Isaiah 34, it was sirens, centaurs, donkey, centaur, sirens. And bestiaries do this, they follow suit with this. Very often in artworks, you will see centaurs, donkey centaurs, sirens connected together. But they don't always get along.
So the centaur is kind of a fish-like.
The siren. Okay, yeah, no, we're going to talk about sirens. Okay, we'll get there. Yeah, we envision a siren to be like a mermaid today, but that is not how the Greeks envisioned a siren. This piece of artwork is so super fascinating. This artwork, it was on, it's not anymore, it was on the lintel, which is the big piece of architecture above a door. It was on the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. It's not there anymore. They took it off. It's still in Jerusalem. It's in a museum there. And you can see that this is on the Holy Sepulchre. This is, probably one of the most important churches in all of Christendom. And here you've got a siren and a centaur. And there's a whole bunch of them on. This is just a zoom in. It's a really long, beautiful, intricate piece. You might be wondering, I don't know what that. It's in Greek, and we'll see another piece of artwork in just a second, but in Greek, sirens were half women, half birds. And we'll follow the train of thought why, first of all, how sirens got into the Bible, and then how they turned from birds to fish. Okay, you ready? This is... Okay, I think I'm ready. So sirens appear 6 times in Septuagint verses. It doesn't appear in any other ancient, it's not the Vulgate a little bit. We'll see Jerome does some different things with the siren and the Centaur. The Hebrew word is ba'ana ya'ana, which literally is daughters of probably ostriches. And that's why your Bible today most likely translate this word as ostriches, not daughters of, though. But that is what the Hebrew is, daughters of ostriches. And this is important because the context of this word describes this creature as isolated from humanity, right? We're talking about wastelands. Septuagint, Sirens in Isaiah 13:22. It's also in Isaiah 43:20. It's just so strange because in Isaiah 13, they translated a siren. But then in Isaiah 43, a few chapters later, they translated as daughters of ostriches. So you know they know what the word is in Hebrew. They clearly know what it is, but they stick in a siren anyway. Like, why are they doing that? So now the Vulgate siren in Isaiah 13:22 only. He only does a siren in Isaiah 13, not in 34. And the DRA does not reflect this. Again, they didn't translate it faithfully here.
What's the DRA?
The translation from Latin to English is the DRA. They don't always translate. I have to go back to the Latin. I'm like, let me double check. The other 5 times, Jerome just translates it as ostrich. He doesn't translate it as daughters of ostriches. He just translates it as ostriches. So in this one case, he follows the Septuagint. King James goes with owls, which is a really kind of a strange move. Like there's no precedent for owls. I mean, it's some kind of bird, but. And then Martin Luther, he went with ostriches too. So how did sirens enter the Bible? Part 1. Okay. We actually have to go to Genesis chapter 4 to start. Probably have no idea what Genesis 4:22 says. Here it is. Zillah also bore Tubal-Cain. He was the forger of all instruments of bronze and iron. The sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Pseudo-Jonathan Targumon adds, and the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. She was the mistress of Kinnan in songs. Nobody knows what Kinnan is. It's some sort of musical term, though. You find it throughout the Psalms. Okay, here. Naamah, which means in Hebrew, lovely. So she's clearly a beautiful, yet evil. Why is she evil? Because she's connected to Tubal-Cain. And Tubal-Cain's a bad dude. And if she's his sister, she's bad. She's a beautiful, evil, singing woman who is isolated in a wasted land, right? Because that's how the translators, they put the siren in Isaiah 13 and 34, which is a wasted place. And in Greek mythology, that's where sirens are, right? They're in a wasted place. I mean, they're out in the water, but it's a place where people can't live. It's uninhabitable. And even for Hebrews, right? That was similar symbolism. Desert, water, desert. They're uninhabitable places.
And you mentioned Sudan earlier.
Yeah.
Even today, Sudan, South Sudan.
Yeah, even today, of course, the Sudan is mostly a desert.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys following, right? Okay, so sort of. Part 2. Here's the key. The Hebrew word for ostrich is an Aramaic homonym of Nama. So remember what I said, right? Septuagint translators go to Aramaic. So they go to the Aramaic. This is almost certainly what happened. They go to the Aramaic and go, that's the same. It's the same word as Naamah. It's a homonym. It looks exactly the same. And so they go, oh, maybe what the Hebrews meant was a siren. It does come up, like I said, it comes up 6 times. Isaiah 13, Jeremiah 50, Micah 1:8. The other 3 times the siren appears, and this is how this guy justifies his thinking. I'm not sure if I totally believe him here, but the other 3 times it comes up, including Isaiah 34, were originally ostrich equals siren. This is what he's saying, okay? He doesn't really have a whole lot of evidence for this. Some. But later Septuagint revisionists, because they were revising this throughout, it's not like they just did it one time and boom, that's it, it's done. They're revising the mistake. So they think that the original guys made a mistake by translating Ba'ana Yana, the daughters of ostriches, into sirens. So they switch out the word jackal to equal to siren. And we'll see this next week when we get to dragons. That's because they didn't know what that word meant, the jackal word. This is the only time I've found they genuinely made a mistake here. They just really didn't know what the Hebrew word for jackal was. And now we do know it's a jackal. So your translations will always put jackal, but they actually usually translate it as dragon. Now, real quick, what time is it? Oh, yeah, we got a couple minutes. Okay, so again, sirens, great part of Greek mythology, another Greek vase. Sirens were made famous in Homer's Odysseus. Probably the most famous scene is you see Odysseus, Ulysses. They have him strapped to the mast of the ship. So Odysseus knows what's coming, right? He's on a ship, they're rowing, he knows the sirens are coming. So he says, okay, men, block up your ears. Because if you hear their song, you're gonna jump in the water and they're gonna get you and you're gonna die. That's what sirens do. But he says, well, I can't block up my ears though, because I've got to be able to navigate the ship. I got to be able to hear. So he strapped me up to the mast. And so you can see their representation of the sirens are clearly women birds. Here's another one. 1st century CE. Now, this is where it gets even more interesting though. Early church fathers, they allegorized the heck out of that Odysseus story. They say, okay, this is Clement of Alexandria. He says Odysseus and the sirens, he links the mast tying of Odysseus, so they've got him tied up to the mast here, with Jesus' crucifixion. Resisting the sirens' temptation. Right? So, and Jerome really takes off with this. Again, you'll have no idea what numbers. I think it's Numbers 33. I have it somewhere in my notes. There's an itinerary of the Israelites wandering in the wilderness. It's like, I want to talk about a metaphor. It's one of the driest sections of the Bible. Like, then they went here, and then they went there, and then they went here, and then they went there, and they went. Well, Jerome spices it up. And he says, hey, you know what? That is just like when Odysseus and his men were going through a wasteland, water, and they resisted temptation. And this is what the Israelites did. As they went from one place to another, they resisted temptation. And that's what you should do, Christian. You can strap yourself to the mast of the cross, resist temptation, and don't give in to lust. That's what they did. Yeah, I mean, here's a bestiary. That's actually a titan. Very rare. There's not too many men/fish. But you can see what they're doing there, though? They're combining them. Like, she's clearly got a tail, but she also has wings. So I'm not 100% sure. Like, you can see the transition starting. Greek mythology, clearly half women, half birds. But later on, they become fish. Okay, we better stop there. We'll wrap up Sirens next time. And then we'll get to Lilith and dragons. We'll see how Sirens and Lilith, you probably can already think, right? Sirens, evil. Lilith, evil. They're both women. They get connected.